The mind is its own place and, in itself, can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven.
That's John Milton. And that quote just perfectly nails the entire human condition, doesn't it?
It really does, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what's happening on the outside. Wealth, poverty, whatever.
None of it. Because your emotions are the filter. They're the energy that colors every single experience you have.
And they can make life absolutely miserable.
Or, truly magical. It's all internal.
We spend so much of our lives just chasing external things. We think if we just arrange the world outside our heads perfectly, then we'll find peace.
Right. But the person who's content in a small garden can be infinitely happier than, say, a billionaire who's just riddled with anxiety.
It's the central irony, isn't it? We get all this input every second of every day, but the thing that actually determines our quality of life
is how we process it, how we feel about it.
Welcome to Mindset Matters Book Club YouTube channel. Please subscribe and like to hear new book summaries. Today we are doing a deep dive into what is basically an essential instruction manual for that internal world.
It's called Master Your Emotions, a practical guide to overcome negativity and better manage your feelings by Thibaut Meurisse.
And that idea of an instruction manual is so perfect because the author himself, Thibaut Meurisse, admits he was struggling with the negative emotions while writing the book.
Exactly. Feelings of doubt, low confidence, just dullness. And he realized the irony in that. Everything we buy comes with a guide, your coffee machine, your car.
But the most complicated thing we own, our own mind, comes with nothing, no instructions at all. So he set out to write that manual.
So our mission today for you is to really pull out the most fundamental tools from this book.
We want to help you understand what emotions actually are, how they get formed, how they impact, well, everything you do.
And this is the most important part. How to use them, not as these things to be avoided, but as like a guidance system, a tool for personal growth that can help you overcome your fears and limitations.
Before we really get into the weeds, though, the book throws out this challenge right at the start.
And it's a simple question. How do you feel right now? I mean, what do you really feel in your body?
Yeah, because you might think, oh, I feel like this is going to be useful, or I feel like I'm too busy.
But those aren't feelings. Those are thoughts. That's the first huge distinction the book makes. You think this could be useful, and that thought then creates an emotion.
Maybe some excitement or curiosity.
Right. A feeling, an emotion. It's a physical sensation in your body. Anxiety is maybe that tightness in your chest. Excitement might be a warmth in your stomach.
They're not just ideas floating around in your head.
No, they're visceral. And just being able to separate that physical sensation from the nonstop story your mind is telling. That's the first step. That's where the control begins.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's start with the fundamental design of our operating system. The book calls it the brain's design flaw.
Survival versus happiness. It's the central conflict of being a modern human.
Our brain is just this brilliant, incredibly complex machine designed for one primary thing.
Survival, that's it. That's why we're all here. Our ancestors survived. They didn't get eaten by saber-toothed tigers. They made it through plagues and famines.
But that ancient wiring that kept them alive is still running the show for us, even though our world is, exponentially safer.
And the direct result of that is a deep, deep bias toward negativity.
Why is that?
Well, think about it from an evolutionary standpoint. Ignoring a potential threat, like a rustle in the bushes, was way more dangerous than, say, getting scared of the wind.
So it's better to be jumpy and wrong than calm and dead.
Exactly. So the brain is constantly scanning your environment, not for things that will bring you joy, but for things that could be a threat.
Which means one piece of bad news, one little bit of criticism, can completely outweigh hundreds of positive things.
The book gives a perfect example. Imagine you're an author. You get 50 amazing 5-star reviews. You're feeling great.
And then one person leaves a scathing 1-star review.
Where does all your attention go?
Straight to that 1-star review. You'd obsess over it for days.
Forgetting all the other praise. Because your brain interprets that criticism as a genuine threat to your ego, which to that primal part of your mind is linked to your status in the tribe.
And therefore, your survival.
And that explains our deep fear of rejection. Back in the tribal days, being rejected by the group meant you were on your own, vulnerable.
You'd be facing starvation, danger, everything.
But today, the book points out the modern reality is so different. You can be criticized globally, you can get fired, and your actual physical survival is almost always fine. You still have food and shelter.
But that emotional pain we feel from rejection, even something small, like an unanswered text message, it feels so real.
It's intensely real because it triggers that same ancient alarm system. It's screaming danger, isolation inside your head.
So it becomes our job then, our responsibility to be the filter.
Every day. You have to learn to separate the real threats, like a car swerving into your lane, from the imaginary ones.
The ones that are just these mental loops of worry and self-criticism.
And if you don't do that, you're just guaranteed to experience so much unnecessary pain and anxiety. It just crushes your quality of life.
And this programming, it goes even deeper, right into our reward system.
Mm-hmm. The brain's job is not to make you happy. I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow, but nature just designed us to find food, find a mate, and keep the species going.
So if you want happiness, you can't just wait for it to happen.
And you have to actively go out and create it. You have to take control.
The main chemical in that reward system is dopamine.
Right. And dopamine is essential. It's what motivates us to achieve things. Historically, it gave us a little buzz when we, successfully hunted or found a safe place to sleep.
But today, that whole system is just constantly being exploited.
Artificially. Oh, totally. The book details it so well, especially with technology. Every single notification on your phone, every little red badge on an app.
It's designed to give you a tiny hit of dopamine.
To keep you hooked. To keep you scrolling, clicking, engaging.
Yeah.
Because the longer you're on their platform, the more money they make.
It's our own obsolete reward system being turned against us. Things like gambling, pornography.
Yeah.
They offer this hyper-stimulation that just bypasses all the effort.
And it creates these really destructive, addictive loops. And it can get extreme.
The book cites this research from Tulane University. It's pretty unsettling.
It is. Participants could electrically stimulate the pleasure centers in their own brains, just giving themselves massive dopamine hits.
And they chose to do that over eating.
Yeah.
Even when they were starving.
The reward system completely overrode their basic survival instinct for food. That's how powerful it is.
And you see the tragic real-world version of that with the case of Lee Sung-sep.
Yeah, the young man in South Korea who, back in 2005, played a video game for 58 hours straight.
58 hours.
He collapsed and died. Heart failure from just utter exhaustion and dehydration. He was only 28.
That's just a horrifying example of where that can lead.
And while that's an extreme case, we have to shine a light on our own, more subtle addictions. Constantly checking our phones, the habit of complaining, even just being addicted to our own negative thoughts.
They're all just little dopamine traps that steal our happiness.
So even if we manage those addictions, we run straight into another problem. The one day I will myth.
Ah, yes. The idea that happiness is a destination. I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll be happy when I buy the house.
But our minds adapt so quickly. It's called hedonic adaptation. It's an evolutionary trait to keep us striving.
If you were still overjoyed about last year's big achievement, you wouldn't be motivated to do anything today.
Right. So that initial rush from the new car, the new house, it fades. And then we're on to the next thing, looking for the next high.
There's that 1978 study that just illustrates this so perfectly. The one with the lottery winners and the paraplegics.
It's an absolute classic in psychology. They looked at how these huge, life-altering events, winning millions of dollars or suffering a paralyzing accident, affected people's happiness in the long term.
And the results were just shocking. They completely go against what you'd expect.
Totally. They found that about a year after the event, both groups, the lottery winners and the people who became paraplegics, had returned almost exactly to their original baseline level of happiness.
So they were just as happy or as unhappy as they were before that massive life change.
It proves that these big external events have a surprisingly small impact on your long-term emotional state.
Which leads us to that breakdown of happiness from Dr. Sunja Lyubomirsky, the pie chart.
Yes. She argues that only 10%, just 10 of our happiness is determined by our external circumstances, whether you're rich or poor, married or single.
Only 10%? That seems so low. I would have guessed at least 50.
It's what everyone thinks. But the research is clear. 50% is your genetics, your biological set point. Some people are just naturally wired to be a bit more optimistic.
Okay, so that's 60%. What's the last 40?
The last 40%. That's the gold mine. That's all internal. It's your attitude, your intentional activities, the way you choose to see the world.
So the big takeaway from this whole section is that if you want to be happier, you have to stop putting all your energy into changing the 10%.
Which you often can't control anyway.
And start focusing on mastering the 40%. The internal stuff.
Yeah.
The part that's actually in your control.
And that's the perfect pivot to our next segment. We need to look at what's driving that internal world. Specifically, the ego And then all the physiological things we usually ignore.
Right. Let's start with the ego. And we're not talking about just being arrogant here. The book defines the ego in a very specific way.
It's the self-identity you've built up your entire life. It's the story you tell yourself about who you are. I am a lawyer. I am a mother. I am a political conservative.
And crucially, it's not real. It has no tangible reality. It's just a collection of thoughts and interpretations.
And your attachment to that story is what triggers all the strong emotions. If someone criticizes your political party, you get offended.
Because it's not an attack on an idea, it's an attack on you.
Yeah.
Or at least on the story of you.
Exactly. The ego's prime directive is its own survival, not your peace of mind. It wants you to do, acquire, achieve, so you can become a somebody.
Yeah.
It's terrified of being a nobody.
And one of the ways it strengthens itself is by identifying with things, possessions.
Oh, absolutely. Clothes, cars, gadgets. The ego doesn't just buy a product. It buys the story attached to that product. Status, coolness, intelligence.
And the problem isn't owning nice things. It's the over-attachment. It's believing that those things are part of who you are. So when your fancy car gets a dent,
you feel personally wounded because your ego story has been dented.
the ego also loves to identify with the body, our appearance.
It's the easiest thing to quantify, right? We look in the mirror, we feel good or bad. And if our entire self-worth is tied up in how we look, we're incredibly vulnerable to aging, to injury, to change.
Relationships are another huge one. The ego is always looking for approval from friends or partners to prop itself up.
And you see this get really messy in parent-child relationships.
Oh, yeah. When a parent can't separate their own identity from their child's, they start living vicariously through them.
It's this false belief that the child is like an extension of them, a possession.
You see it at kids' sports games all the time. The parents screaming from the sidelines.
That's not love of the game. That's the ego desperately trying to win through the child, probably to fulfill some dream they never achieved themselves.
And in romantic relationships, that feeling of needing someone. That's often just the ego terrified of being alone, of losing the identity of being part of a couple.
There's a great Anthony DeMello quote about this. He says, "True loneliness isn't cured by human company. It's cured by realizing you don't need other people to be whole."
It's only when you stop needing them that you can truly enjoy them.
And finally, the ego has this bottomless need to feel superior. It's always comparing, always trying to stand out.
It uses all these little strategies like gossiping.
Right. When you gossip, you're making yourself feel superior by pointing out someone else's perceived flaws. Complaining does the same thing.
I'm so guilty of complaining about my internet speed.
Yeah.
It's like I think the router has personally offended my ego.
We all do it. It's the ego reinforcing that I am right and the world is wrong. And that constant need to be right is maybe its biggest trap.
Because everyone, from dictators to saints, believes they are right from their own perspective.
And that's why we argue so much. To change your mind means you have to admit your ego's story was wrong. And it hates that.
Okay, so that's the psychological story. But there are also these really practical, physical things that impact our mood every single day.
We have to remember that our mind and body are one system. Garbage in, garbage out. And it starts with sleep.
It's so basic, but so important. When you're sleep deprived, you're grumpy, you're listless.
You have zero ability to deal with negative emotions. Even tiny things feel overwhelming. The data is crazy. Sleeping less than 6 hours a night is linked to a 13% higher mortality risk.
Wow. And it even dulls our ability to enjoy positive things.
So you're more sensitive to the bad and less sensitive to the good. It's a terrible combination. That's why sleep hygiene is so critical. A pitch black room, and this is the big one, no electronic devices before bed.
The blue light from the screen suppresses melatonin, right, the sleep hormone.
By up to 50%, you're chemically telling your brain to stay awake while you're trying to wind down.
So beyond sleep, we can actually use our body to change our state.
This is Amy Cuddy's work. It's fantastic. Your posture, your body language, it directly changes how you feel. It's a two-way street.
When we feel confident, we expand. We take up more space.
And that study on power posing is just concrete proof. When people held an expansive high-power pose for just 2 minutes, hands on hips, chest out.
Their testosterone, the dominance hormone, went up by 25%.
And cortisol, the stress hormone, dropped by 10%. And their behavior changed instantly. 86% of them then chose to take a risk in a gambling game.
Compared to the low-power pose group,
Uh-huh.
hunched over, making themselves small.
Their testosterone dropped 10%, cortisol went up 15%, and only 60% of them took the risk.
That is just definitive proof that you can change your feelings by changing your actions first.
For a really extreme example, the book talks about the psychologist David K. Reynolds. He wanted to understand depression, so he deliberately induced it in himself.
How did he do that?
Purely physically. He forced his body to slump. He constantly sighed. He repeated, "It's hopeless," over and over. He made himself cry. And by creating the physical state, he generated the genuine emotional state of clinical depression.
And getting out of it.
He couldn't think his way out. He had to force his body to move, to get active, which leads right into exercise.
The Duke study that showed exercise can be as effective as antidepressants for mild to moderate depression.
And we're not talking about running marathons. Just 30 minutes of walking 5 days a week can work wonders. The mood boost can start in as little as 5 minutes.
Okay, so from the body, let's move to the mind. Words and thoughts.
Emerson said it best. You become what you think about all day long. Our thoughts literally create our reality.
And meditation is the key practice here. It's not about stopping your thoughts, which is impossible.
No, it's about taming the monkey mind, creating some distance. You learn to observe your thoughts without getting swept away by them. And in that space, they lose their power over you.
Visualization works on a similar principle, right?
Exactly. The subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between something you vividly imagine and something that's really happening. So if you visualize your goals with intense emotion, your brain starts wiring itself as if it's already real.
And our words are just our thoughts made audible. If you're saying, "I'll try," or "I hope," you're programming yourself for failure.
You have to switch to assertive language. I will. I am committed. This is the basis for positive affirmations. But you can't just say them.
You have to feel them. Tony Robbins calls it incantation. You say it, you visualize it, you engage your body, you force the feeling to match the words.
And the last two are breathing and environment. Bad breathing shallow from the chest keeps you in a state of stress.
Slow, deep belly breathing is a direct lever on your nervous system. You can calm anxiety in minutes just by slowing your breath down.
And your environment is everything. The people you're around, the state of your desk, the music you listen to.
A messy desk can be seriously demotivating. Just cleaning it up can give you a mental boost.
Absolutely. And with music, the research shows it's most effective when you are intentional. You have to listen to that uplifting song with the active intention of boosting your mood.
So you could literally create playlists for different emotional states you want to cultivate. One for gratitude, one for focus, one for motivation.
You're actively conditioning your mind with sound.
Okay, we have the background. Now let's get into the actual mechanism of change. The formula for how emotions are created, so we know where to intervene.
The book breaks negative emotions into two types. First, there's the spontaneous survival-based kind. A car cuts you off, you feel a jolt of fear. That's useful and it passes quickly.
The second type is where all our problems are, the self-created emotions.
The ones that come from getting hooked on our own thoughts, they last so much longer. And to understand them, you have to know the formula.
This is the core of the book, really. The equation is interpretation plus identification plus repetition equals a strong emotion.
And if you can break any one of those three links in the chain, the emotion falls apart.
Okay, let's break that down. Interpretation.
This is the meaning you give to an event. And the key is, events themselves are neutral. They have no meaning until we assign one.
Right. Rain is a blessing to a farmer, but it's a curse to someone having a picnic. The rain is just rain.
Exactly. So your negative emotions almost always come when reality doesn't match your expectation or your interpretation. You're waiting for an important email. The delay is neutral.
But my interpretation is, they're not writing back because I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And that's what creates the anxiety.
That's it. The second step is identification. This is where you grab onto that feeling of anxiety and you decide, this is me, I am anxious.
The emotion can't survive without your attention, without you identifying with it.
And this is maybe the single most important idea in the book. You are not your emotions.
You're not angry. You are experiencing anger. It's like a piece of clothing you're wearing. It's not your skin.
Perfect analogy. Emotions are temporary visitors. They come and go. You are the one who remains.
And the final piece of the formula is repetition.
Every time you repeat that interpretation, I'm not good enough, and identify with that feeling of anxiety, you're strengthening that neural pathway. You're digging the groove deeper.
So it becomes easier and easier to feel anxious in the future when a similar situation comes up.
You're conditioning yourself to feel that way. And because our culture tells us to just push down negative feelings, we end up with all this unresolved emotional baggage.
Guilt, shame, that feeling of not good enough, it just sinks into our subconscious.
And that's where a tool like the Sedona method comes in. It's a really simple but powerful way to consciously let go of that baggage.
With a series of questions you ask yourself.
5 steps. First, you just focus on the feeling you want to release. Acknowledge it fully.
Second, you ask, could I let this feeling go? It's a simple yes or no. Sometimes the answer might be no.
And that's okay. The third question is, would I? This is about willingness. Again, be honest. The ego might want to hang on to the anger.
And even admitting that helps release it a bit.
It does. Fourth question, when? And the answer is always now. It creates a commitment to immediate action.
And then the 5th step is just to repeat that cycle until the feeling fades.
It forces you to see that you have a choice. You can choose to let it go.
So now we have the tools to deconstruct negative emotions. Let's talk about proactively building positive ones.
Right. Segment 4, positive conditioning and behavior. We know thoughts create emotions which drive actions, so controlling our thoughts is everything.
But the book warns against just positive thinking. You can't just chant, I'm happy, and expect it to work if you haven't dealt with the underlying negative patterns.
If you do that, as soon as something bad happens, you'll just snap right back to your old story. See, I knew it, I'm fundamentally flawed.
So the conditioning has to be deliberate. You use that same formula, interpretation, identification, repetition, but for the good stuff.
You pick an emotion you want more of, let's say gratitude. Then you use interpretation. You actively look for things to be grateful for. You use identification. You allow yourself to feel grateful. And you use repetition. You do it every single day.
Let's run through some of those specific practices. For gratitude, it's more than just a journal.
A great exercise is to thank people, even the difficult ones, for the lesson they taught you.
I love the exercise of appreciating a simple object, like a chair.
It's so powerful. You think about the wood, the person who designed it, the factory, the transportation. Hundreds of people and processes that had to happen for you to be sitting on that chair.
It instantly shifts you out of taking things for granted.
For excitement, you need to vividly visualize your goals and your ideal day. Not just think about them, but see them, feel them.
And for confidence, you have to visualize your goals as if they're already done. Not hoping it will happen, but knowing it will happen.
And to build self-esteem, the win log is non-negotiable.
Because people with low self-esteem have a filter that just dismisses their own accomplishments.
Right, so you have to document them. And they can be tiny wins. I woke up on time. I ate a piece of fruit. 5 to 10 small wins a day. You're training your brain to see that you are capable.
And for being more decisive, there's that great tool from Mel Robbins, the 5-second rule.
It's so simple and so effective. The moment you have an impulse to do something good, get up, make the call, start the task. You have 5 seconds.
You're 4, 3, 2, 1.
And you physically move. If you wait longer than 5 seconds, your survival brain will kick in with a million excuses to keep you comfortable and safe.
That brings up a huge point. Sometimes you have to change your behavior first.
When a negative emotion is really strong, affirmations just bounce off. You can't think your way out of it. You have to act your way out.
So if you're sad after a breakup, the action is to stop looking at old photos.
If you're worried about a presentation, the action is to rehearse until you're certain. If you resent a friend, the action is to have the difficult conversation.
You regulate your behavior, which is under your direct control, and your feelings will eventually catch up.
And the final piece is changing your environment. Control what you can. If social media makes you feel inadequate, limit your time on it.
If certain people drain your energy, spend less time with them.
And a big one, finish your tasks. Those open loops, those unfinished things, they create a constant background noise of stress and overwhelm in your mind. Closing them brings immediate relief.
So this is all building to the idea that emotions aren't just things to be managed, but tools for growth.
Exactly. Emotional pain is a message. It's a signal that your interpretation of reality is off, or that a core belief needs to be examined.
And if you ignore it, the message just gets louder. It starts as a gut feeling and can end up as a physical illness.
To navigate that, the book uses the above and below the line model. When you're below the line, you're defensive, you're arguing, you're blaming. You're just trying to protect your ego's story.
And above the line is when you're open, you're curious, you're taking responsibility for your reactions. That's where all the growth happens.
So let's do a deep dive on some of these specific negative states and see what they're trying to teach us. Starting with that pervasive feeling of not being good enough.
It's so common. Even super successful people like Meryl Streep have talked about feeling like a fraud.
It's that mental filter, again, magnifying failures and dismissing success. So the growth tool is to actively fight that filter. The win log helps, the self-esteem jar.
And practicing accepting compliments. That's a hard one.
It is. Instead of deflecting, you just have to look them in the eye, say thank you, and let the positive feelings sink in for a second.
What about being defensive?
That's your ego protecting its story. You get defensive for one of three reasons. One, there's some truth in the criticism. Two, you believe there's truth in it because it hits a sore spot. Or three, one of your core beliefs, political, religious, is under attack.
So the growth tool is to get curious. Ask yourself, what am I trying to protect here?
And what if I just let that belief go?
Let's talk stress and worry. The book makes this huge point. Stress isn't external. No situation is inherently stressful.
Stress is your internal reaction to it. It's your interpretation. The traffic jam isn't stressful. Your belief that there shouldn't be traffic is what's stressful.
So the tool is reframing. I can't change this, so I'm going to use this time to listen to an audiobook.
And with worry, which is about the past or future, you have to categorize. Bucket your worries into things you have total control over, some control over, and no control over.
And you just pour all your energy into the first two buckets and practice acceptance for the third.
Right. What about caring what people think of you?
This one is so liberating. It's based on the false idea that people are thinking about you all the time.
When in reality, everyone is the main character in their own movie. They're mostly thinking about themselves.
There's that great line, when you're 20, you care what everyone thinks. When you're 60, you realize no one was ever thinking about you in the first place.
The growth is just realizing that what people think of you is none of your business. Your only job is to be authentic.
Okay, what about a really corrosive one? Resentment.
Mandela's quotes is the best. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. It only hurts you.
It builds up when we don't communicate our needs or when we refuse to forgive.
So forgiveness is the tool. And it's not for the other person, it's an act of self-love. You're choosing your peace of mind over your need to be right.
And the book has 4 steps. Reevaluate the story without the drama, confront the situation, forgive by releasing the attachment, and then stop replaying it in your head.
What about jealousy?
Jealousy is a great signpost. It comes from a scarcity mindset, but it can show you what you truly want.
The author Susan Cain realized she wasn't jealous of successful lawyers, but she was jealous of successful writers. That told her she was on the wrong path.
So you use it to find your passion, and you have to shift from scarcity to abundance. Someone else's success doesn't take away from you. It proves that success is possible.
And stop comparing your behind-the-scenes mess to everyone else's highlight reel. The only valid comparison is you today versus you yesterday.
What about non-clinical depression?
The book defines this as a feeling of hopelessness when you can't accept your current life. And it's an active process. You have to identify with negative thoughts to maintain it.
So the growth tool is to get out of your head and into your body. Action, exercise, movement.
And focusing on others. Alfred Adler's advice. Try to think every day how you can please someone. It gets you out of your own story.
Even anger can be a step up from depression because it has more energy.
It gives you fuel to make a change. Then there's fear.
Fear is just the ego trying to keep you in your comfort zone.
So if you feel fear about trying something new, that's often the exact sign that you should do it. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting in spite of it.
And finally, procrastination.
It's an emotional problem, not a time management problem. It's rooted in fear of failure, fear of judgment.
It's a signal that you're listening to your mind's excuses instead of being the master of your mind.
And the solution is to understand that hidden fear, clarify your why, and then just start small. Use the 5-second rule. Just take the first tiny action to get into motion.
That brings us to the end of this deep dive. The amount of practical wisdom in this one book is it's incredible.
So what's the big summary? What does this all mean for you listening?
I think the main truth is that the quality of your emotions dictates the quality of your life. Full stop.
We've learned that our brains are naturally wired for negativity, but that we have the power to consciously rewire them.
We have all the tools.
Yeah.
You can change our body, our words, our environment, and most importantly, our interpretations. We can stop pushing feelings down and start consciously letting them go.
But I think the most profound idea we've touched on today is that final check on your identity.
You are not your emotions. You are the awareness that is watching the emotions. You are the sky, and the emotions are just clouds passing through. The clouds change, but the sky remains.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought. If we really take this to its logical conclusion, that problems only exist in the past or the future, and only because we label them as problems.
Then what happens if you strip away all of that? If you stop interpreting, stop judging, and just look at the raw reality of this present moment?
What's left when you take away the story? Just what is. And so maybe the ultimate path to emotional mastery isn't about getting better at solving your problems. Maybe it's about the stunning realization that outside of your own mind, they don't really exist at all.